Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone, episode number 189 for the 2nd of June, 2012. June. Well, the year's really progressing. Now, before we get stuck into the show, before I tell you what the show's all about, I'm going to relate to you an interesting experience I had just yesterday talking to a group of background actors, extras, on the set of the new series of Underbelly. And those folks listening in Australia will know what Underbelly is all about. It's sort of like a series of crime dramas based on real events, police and baddies and all that sort of stuff. In the series being shot at the moment, I'm playing a detective in the background there, running around in a suit, looking very concerned, all the rest of it. But between takes, there's often time on set to have a chat to other people. And invariably, somebody says, "Weren't you that skeptic on the TV?" And it sort of goes from there, or whatever the case may be. And I had an interesting time yesterday. I found myself trying to explain rather basic concepts to a lot of people, I thought, without trying to sound too arrogant about it. And the topic of astrology came up. Somebody said, "What do you think about astrology?" And I said, "Well, what is your star sign? When were you born?" And they gave me a date. I quickly ran to a website which gives you your true star sign, which is www.truestarsign.com. And they gave me their star sign, which, for example, might have been Gemini. And I said, "Well, your star sign's Taurus." So, no, I'm Gemini. I was born on this date. And I said, no, when you were born, the sun was in Taurus. And confusion. How could I say such a stupid thing? Because they've known all their life they've been a Gemini. Very interesting to tell people what their true star sign is. I mean, there's no such thing as a true star sign, of course, but the constellations are there. They are those dots in the sky, for better or for worse. Of course, we know they don't do anything in particular. But it's interesting to tell people where the sun really was when they were born. For example, and I was just sort of using this example right now, if your birthday is today, the 2nd of June, happy birthday to you, you are a Taurus and not a Gemini, as you've always been led to believe. You're a Taurus. Yes, it sounds like a lot of bull to me, but there you go. Now, in order to help people understand this when you're talking to them, they look confused. I drew lots of diagrams of the sun, and I tried to draw the sphere of where the ellipse is and the planets and where the Earth is in relation to the sun, on and on it went. But the best thing I could have done, and I should have done, was simply pull out my iPad, and I have a couple of apps there which come in very handy. One for showing people where the sun is in relation to the background stars I can recommend is called Go Sky Watch. Go Sky Watch, which is great also for when you're out there looking at the stars. You can sort of hold up your iPad or your iPhone and it says, "Oh, there's Mars and there's Jupiter, or that's Alpha Centauri," or whatever the case may be. The other one, which is really fabulous for just general astronomy, is Solar Walk. Solar Walk, I can certainly recommend that. Anyway, if you want to get a discussion going, just ask people, when were you born? What do you think your star sign is? When they tell you, you can easily look up online what their real star sign is and watch the sparks fly. Suddenly people who have grown up all their lives with certain characteristics they've attributed to their star sign don't know what to think. All good fun, all good fun. But let's get into this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone. It's more from Skepticamp in Sydney, which was a fantastically enjoyable and successful event held last weekend. Maynard running around with his microphone, run off his feet, I think. This week he has a wonderful interview with the editor of the Australian Skeptics magazine, The Skeptic, Tim Mendham. Tim will tell Maynard about the magazine itself and some of his experiences over the last 30 plus years in the skeptical movement. Very interesting interview with Tim Mendham from Australian Skeptics. After that, Maynard catches up with Dave the Happy Singer, who is part of Skepticamp, chats to Belinda Bowditch about Cupcake Camp once again, and we find out who won Cupcake Camp, and then has a chat to Robin Hilliard, who is an aviation expert, about aerodynamics and flying bricks. Flying bricks. Coming up soon. And following the break, I chat to Terry Kelly, who is the president of the Victorian Skeptics, with fantastic news of the upcoming Australian Skeptics National Convention to be held at the end of November. And, of course, the big banner headline news is James the Amazing Randy himself will be in attendance. That's something really to look forward to. Anybody who missed out on TAM Australia a couple of years ago and missed out seeing James Randi, now is your chance. Melbourne at the end of November. All the details coming up in my chat with Terry Kelly later in the Skeptic Zone. Now, those folks listening in Sydney, run to www.skeptics.com.au and book your ticket for the next Australian Skeptics dinner meeting, which is on the 23rd of June, and it will be a night of magicians and magic, something to really look forward to. And while you're swanning about the Australian Skeptics website, why not nominate somebody in Australia for the annual Bent Spoon Award? Yes, the Bent Spoon Award. This goes to the biggest perpetrator of paranormal or pseudoscientific piffle over the last year. And if I look on the website, I see that, Fran Sheffield from Homeopathy Plus has been safely nominated. If you want to nominate somebody else, be our guest. Well, there's a lot to get through on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone. I'm going to run downstairs, have a nice... you know what my favourite drink in the world is? Apart from root beer, and my American friends certainly know that. Good old soda water. Yeah, why not? I'll have a nice cool glass of soda water, lots of bubbles, and we can all enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Now, here we are in one of the unused lecture theatres where just earlier we had people controversially discussing all sorts of items with people yelling back and forth in what I believe they would call a robust discussion in Parliament. We're here with Tim. Tim, who are you and what do you do? You're a magazine editor.
I've often wondered what I do, actually. My name is Tim Mendham. I'm the Executive Officer of Australian Skeptics, plus the editor of the magazine.
Is that because you've got the best beard?
I think I do have the best beard. In fact, on the committee these days, I'm the only one with a beard.
Get out, really?
Yeah, apart from a couple of the girls, but yeah.
So you've been with the movement 30 years or more. How has the place of the magazine changed in the movement over those 30 years? Is it still a centrepiece because everyone's reading online now and no one buys dead wood anymore?
I think it is still a centrepiece. I mean, the Australian Skeptics, I was there from the very start, which was 32 years ago, as I said before, and the magazine was it, basically, the form of communication, the occasional dinner and things, the occasional convention. But the magazine was definitely the main form of communication, sharing things in the skeptical community. In those days, skepticism was a dirty secret. Not the sort of thing you'd raise at a dinner party and say, oh, by the way, I'm a skeptic. And we go, nowadays it's changed, especially with the new technology. It's grown. It's got a lot of younger people in it, which is fantastic. It's had a more gender balance in it, which is good, because a lot of times in the past it was male-dominated. But I mean, and it has expanded through blogs and Twitter and all the Facebook and all that sort of stuff. So it's very active. But I think, the magazine funds the Skeptics organisation, Australian Skeptics, so it's an important element for us to keep doing what we do, because we're organised and we can sort of bring everyone in under the umbrella and have a very concerted effort.
And now, how hard is it trying to move a magazine in this day and age? I mean, the Packer people have enough trouble doing it.
I know. The magazine's a tough industry, but fortunately ours is by subscription. We're not on open sale, so it's a very select bunch, people who subscribe to the magazine.
And also a pretty picky bunch, particularly when something's in print, a skeptic will write and going, "Dear sir, that comma was not in the correct place."
Absolutely. We get picked up by the communists all the time. actually. But, I mean, no, we have a very, very lively letters section, actually, a lot of discussion that often extends for issue after issue, so it's very good.
Now, of course, the big schism in skeptic movements, what's the one you get most mail about? Is it still climate change?
Climate change is one of them, and it sort of fluctuates a bit. And then there's sometimes we actually sort of get religion issues as well. But, climate change will be one of the ones with the to and fro. Yep.
Wow. I don't think actually. Have you actually ever had legal action taken against the magazine for something? Can you even talk about that?
We've had legal action threatened against the Skeptics, right? Not so much the magazine. I'm an experienced editor, so I'm trying to avoid that. But the thing is, with occasionally sort of someone writes in with a letter saying, without prejudice from a bunch of lawyers and this sort of thing, and it's always fun to get those, actually.
And what are you working on for the next issue?
Next issue, we're looking at a couple of things, actually. We're having a lot of articles about this sounds philosophical, the nature of evidence, and people looking at evidence for various areas. I know it's a lot, and then we're also getting back to the fun and games. We're having a lot of stuff on what I call cryptic critters.
Well, on evidence, there's the evidence from, I think, World Trade Center 7, that they've got some sort of paint or something that they think is a bit of an unusual paint there. And I remember talking to some 9/11
Truthers?
I don't want to say truthers, because that seems to put a negative connotation. But people that believe there's some anomalies there, and I asked them about the evidence chain, and they said that the evidence chain they had for this particular paint is better than what the police would have. And that made me think, the police make mistakes with their evidence sometimes as well. So, when it comes to criminal evidence, there can be a possible shadow over it.
The area, I know, criminal evidence and witness things. The interesting thing is that when people want to claim, say, a UFO sighting or all sorts of different things, they often say it was seen by a policeman, and policemen are sort of, responsible members of the community. They've seen a lot of different things, so it must be true. And yet, if they disagree with something, it's because the police are wrong.
And now, of course, that gets back to that great UFO documentary I Know What I Saw, which I believe most skeptics would declare as an argument from authority. Is that correct?
That's what it's called, yes.
In that pilots and police are much better at observing people than observing unusual things than regular people. Where do you sit on this?
I think the whole thing is that pilots and police are regular people. I mean, they're looking out for things that they know and they're experienced with. But when something comes that they're not quite sure about, they can be as fooled as anybody.
And I believe you've shown a bit of interest in a story I ran on the ABC and on the Skeptic Zone about the gentleman who sighted some sort of black cat in the Upper Hunter. Now, I've actually spoken to a lot of people in the Upper Hunter since then, and not only has no one ever seen anything like this, no one's ever heard any stories of there being one. In almost all areas of Australia, you might get big cat stories, but there are none in the Upper Hunter. It's just there aren't stories so I just don't know where this has come from. It's a very interesting sighting he had. What did you think?
Your story was fascinating. I thought it was a very interesting story. The man sounded very, very intriguing. He certainly sort of had a firm belief in it, which was fine. But, the explanation of what he saw, he said he saw it for a few minutes, watched it around, chasing some foxes, I think it was.
6 or 7 minutes, 10:30 in the morning, daylight. He got a pretty clear view.
Yeah, but the thing is, do people recognise giant cats, this sort of thing? I don't know. It's always a fun area, actually, these things. The issue is that where's the evidence of their existence? Where's the bodies? Where's the baby cats? Where's all these other things that should be around? Where's the population to keep these things going? And that's all the issue. It's the same for Loch Ness and things like that. They're fun. There's not a lot of harm out of them.
Well, I guess that's the area I tend to concentrate in. I concentrate in the non-harm areas of scepticism because I'm not qualified to stuff. You rarely hear me say stuff on the vaccination debate because, I could damage the cause if I open my mouth. So it's probably best to shut up.
I think that's very true, actually. I gave a talk here at the previous Skepticamp, one on dealing with the media, things like that, like yourself, actually. And basically, my response was, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk. Right? The other thing is don't lie, because then you get caught out, as always do. And the third thing is don't say no comment, because everyone knows you're guilty when you say that.
Well, although it does look good if you put, like, a newspaper in front of your face or something like that, I reckon, because everyone knows it's you, and, that would be so cool.
Yeah, the thing about the Skeptics is very few of us know everything about everything. I can say quite honestly, I think probably no one does. We tend to have particular areas that we're interested in. Some of us are more generalists. You're able to give a sort of a reasonable answer in some cases, but it's always best to point to someone who knows more about it often than you do. And it's a very fair thing to say. If you don't know what it is, you just say, sorry, I don't know. That doesn't mean it exists, but I can point you to someone else who might have a better idea.
Now, a lot of people I know are critical of the sceptical movement because they claim that they're very fixed in their ideas. In fact, I only got a tweet the other day from someone who's been on the Skeptic Zone that says, oh, look, a couple of hundred years ago, you would have been the guys that were claiming the Earth was flat. Could you give me an example of where the skeptics have changed their mind on a subject because of evidence?
Probably there are some areas where sort of over the years, no. Quite frankly. I mean, the whole issue is that we're dealing with people who make outrageous claims, right? If you're dealing with people who make simple claims, blah, 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 they're okay. You can probably find some evidence to substantiate what they say. But in most cases, we are dealing with the extreme end of the spectrum, and they need extreme evidence. They need very, very good evidence, and I think in virtually every case, they haven't come up with it. So seriously, our job is to make them sort of put up or shut up. They rarely shut up, quite frankly, but they often don't put up either. So in areas, I mean, some of the areas that, of course, they talk about sort of where things get, okay, there is some benefit, blah, blah, blah. It is in some of the health areas, right? When something is sort of claimed as being a slightly out of left field theory, and then you realise you do some work on it. I think aspirin is and dealing with heart issues, that sort of thing, has moved across into the mainstream, really, and therefore, as they always say, as soon as alternative medicine is proved, it's medicine. Simple as that.
And what will you have coming up after this? Well, what's your long-range story arc for the magazine? Is there anything you've got planned in there? Will it be a plot twist halfway through the year?
Yes. I'm not going to give it away. We had some great stories in the past which have got a lot of coverage. One was about a lot of the universities in Australia, including this one, teaching some very, very strange courses and things. Right, that got picked up, and it was actually quite an inspiration for a group that's now out there called Friends of Science in Medicine, who are raising a big campaign to make the universities think about the courses they're actually teaching. We had another one recently about the health funds and what they're funding, and the fact they're funding a lot of pseudoscience, pseudomedicine, with taxpayers' money, as it turns out. We're looking more and more in those areas where you get the big organisations, the traditional organisations, if you like, not the wacky ones, but traditional organisations that are doing some very, very strange things. So we hope to have a bit more of that, actually.
And how long has it been since you've been to a spirit festival or something like that? Because I imagine you would have gone to a lot of them over all these years. Can you still go and have a look?
I can still go, but I find them very disappointing. I mean, I've been a member of the Skeptics since it started, and that was sort of 30 years ago, obviously.
So you've been drinking with Dick Smith?
I've been drinking with Dick Smith, yeah, everything like that, yeah, and I was only 5 when I started drinking with Dick Smith, but I mean, yeah, so I mean, after a while you get to see a lot, and you really think, I've heard the arguments once or twice before, and you think, there are others who can take a more sort of the more provo wing of the skeptics who can attack them, and I think that's good, especially younger people who can come there with a lot of enthusiasm and attack in many cases, but who are happy to listen to these people. I get a bit jaundiced.
And one last question, because magazine editors love this question. What's been the wackiest letter to the editor you've got there at the Skeptic magazine? And you must have got some corkers.
I got some beauts, trying to pick out the best one over the years. They get the usual ones, the moderate people who say we should hang every priest from a telegraph pole, murder this and that. And we say, rightio. The wackiest ones, it's probably not a lot lately, actually. Well, I haven't printed them. There was one talking about the Pygmy tribe who live in North Queensland. That's always a good one. We get the occasional one about cannibalism amongst the Aborigines, that sort of thing. Really, I think a lot of them come from overseas, as the overseas ones are interesting. I also get some occasional sort of strange article that's submitted to me. Right? Yeah. And there's some...
Because you've got the tough thing of saying, no, we're not going to run that. Then the person's going to say, why not?
There's a lot of emotional attachment to a lot of the things people submit because they've worked on them for a long time or something. And you try and point out that it's either the argument's not very good or the style needs a lot of work. And I help out people in many cases with the style.
And sometimes it might not even be a skeptic area.
There are a lot of areas that people want to talk about. Our area is things that can be tested, right? In the pseudoscience and paranormal areas, people put forward the things like, let's disprove God. And I say, very hard to do, right? Trying to find an evidence, a technique for disproving God is hard. Disproving the manifestations of God, or at least seeking the evidence on those, is easier when you get a miracle or you get the weeping statue and that sort of stuff. That can be investigated in the way the skeptics do. Skeptics it's the easiest philosophy to understand. Someone makes a claim, someone says they can fly, and your response is normally, show me. Simple as that. Prove it. We're all sceptical when we come to buying a fridge. Prove it. Show me it works. You take a car for a drive. Prove it, right, when you're going to buy one. Same for a philosophy. Unfortunately, people spend less time on their philosophy than they do buying a fridge.
And what is the woo that annoys you the most? After all these years, you're a bit jaded, just a touch cynical about things. What's the one that continues to come up?
Yeah, anti-vaccination. I think you'll find everybody says that, actually. I've dealt with a lot of areas. My specialty might be the fun ones. My real specialty was the unknown animals and that sort of thing. But dealing with the anti-vaccination people is not funny at all. It brings the tears to my eyes when I talk about it, because I've seen people who have been damaged by this, and babies and that sort of thing have died because of what the anti-vaccination movement is promulgating. That is not funny at all.
I'm often wonder if it's not so much an anti-science movement, but a bit of an anti-capitalist movement, because, yes, they have trouble with the science, but they also have problems with the way the companies behave. Do you think that's a major part of it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. I mean, companies do behave badly from time to time, perhaps even more often than that, in the same way as governments behave badly from time to time. But I think what's driving a lot of the anti-vaccination movement, they would say it's a scientific or technical issues, but there is definitely an anti-establishment view in there. I think that's a major thing. And then you'll find they will then be promoting the alternatives their own way, if the anti-vaccination movement is against needles, vaccination, whatever, they will then promote their own alternative, which they think is natural and small scale and cottage industry and that sort of thing, which of course is not, like homeopathy and that sort of stuff, which is quite big business. I think it's as much an anti-establishment movement as anything else.
And to end on a brighter note there, how do you inject a bit of humour into the magazine there? I mean, I noticed you've got the really difficult crossword and you've got the quiz that makes no sense.
That's right. It's really cryptic stuff, actually.
Yeah, it's beyond a Mr. Wisdom's whopper that used to be in the Australasian Post.
The thing about Australian skeptics especially is that we've always had a lot of fun. I mean, it's not just a bunch of spoiled sports getting together and saying harumph, harumph, harumph from their armchairs. In fact, other groups overseas have said there's too much humour in your magazine. And we say there's never too much humour in the magazine. No, you've always had a lot of light-hearted stuff and some fun.
See, we're Australian, up your bum. That's what you have to say.
Exactly right, actually. And then this is the attitude we have, which is sort of, it's fun. We take the mickey occasionally. Some things are more serious than others. But I mean, yeah, we always try and keep it as an element of lightheartedness in the magazine, so it covers a range of emotions.
Well, that's it. I'm going to get right down and send a letter to the editor.
Please do. I look forward to seeing it. I will then reject it.
And what's the website for the Skeptic magazine?
Yeah, the magazine, the website is pretty straightforward. It's www.skeptics, skeptics.com.au. You'll find on there a lot of information about the Skeptics, including our little shop where you can subscribe to the magazine, which is called, cleverly, The Skeptic. Original, that one. And, of course, we have the Twitter as well, which is Skeptics.
Look, I'm just here with Dave the Hang. I'm going right round the table now because let me tell you, an interview with Dave the Happy Singer is well worth the kilometres you have to walk to get it. Now, I usually only talk to you at lunchtime, but it's got a lunchtime feel now. I want to bring up the controversial aspects that you brought up of the Atheist Convention's catering. You pushed the boundaries as far as I think anyone could push catering controversy.
Catering is very, very important.
Yeah, and there was a problem with the atheist catering in that they didn't have vegetarian food, or their definition was different from every other vegetarian's?
It was very shambolic on the first day. It was very difficult to find the dietary requirements table, which is like the special table. And the first atheist convention, they just had a separate table next to it, but this was just miles away. And the first one, they didn't even have one. But we complained on Twitter, and it worked. You complain on Twitter, everything works.
And you got the food you wanted? There was no dairy products?
It was all good. The only problem was the queue was quite long because atheists tend to have high ethical standards and therefore many more vegetarians than the general population.
And just harking back to the Atheist Convention, which you cover on your podcast quite well, did you think there was a few moments that could have gone horribly wrong where the two guys were kissing in front of the Muslim protesters?
There was one moment when, look, I think it was a powder keg. There was very, very high tension. We were all piled together. Emotions were on our side. We were having a very exciting day. We were seeing our friends for the first time in a long time. We were seeing incredible speakers. We'd had a little sleep because we were out partying, because we like that kind of thing. So we were all very, very tense. And obviously the Muslim guys were very, very passionate about their thing, and they were very persuasive, very urgent about what they were trying to say. And we were all crammed in this little space under a lot of pressure. It could have gone up. It didn't.
Well, they're obviously in a hurry, judging from the punctuation on their signs.
I would have preferred more apostrophes, less apostasy, but
that's one for you people out there at clerical college.
Yeah, I'm not going to take a theological argument seriously from somebody who can't spell atheist.
Oh, well, look, look, I believe there's been a winner of Cupcake Camp, but it's under wraps. It's embargoed.
It is embargoed. I don't even know it myself for security reasons. I'm only allowed to know half of the person's name.
But what's the idea of the prize being a night with some guy who watches psychic TV? That's a terrible prize.
Well,
and you've got to bring your own drinks. I mean, really.
Well, the prize is a surprise as well.
And we're talking quietly now because the winner of Cupcake Camp hasn't been announced, but I can talk to you in very conspiratorial tones. Who won and why do you think they won?
Well, Ruth won. Now, this is hush-hush until the announcement. Ruth won, and I think it's because her cupcakes, as well as tasting good, they always look so pretty.
Now, which ones were they again?
They were the ones with the swirly frosting and the toffee stuck in the top.
Okay, well, and what does she get for that? What's her prize?
Well, first prize was meant to be Lewis Worthington for a night. But since I think...
Watching psychic TV, I believe.
Yes, that's right. But since, Ruth does live in Canberra, it's difficult for her to take her prize home. We may be giving her a book.
Oh, how about a Skype date with Lewis?
Oh,
it's pretty much the same thing, really. You've been out with him, you know what he's like.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. We'll offer that as well.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, good luck with it. And now, is that a surprise? Do you think the icing's what took her over the top there? That little bit of special icing?
It was beautiful, and it had toffee in the centre.
Is it going to influence the way you bake for next year?
Oh, yes. Ruth is very inspirational when it comes to cupcakes.
Okay. And of course, we've got the Skeptic Zone's aviation correspondent. Who have we got here?
Robin Hilliard here.
Hi. Now, I remember last time at Skepticamp we talked about all sorts of aviation things. You gave a chat. You're talking today.
I'm also talking about aviation today, but it's more of a fun sort of topic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we're sort of doing in the same way that transitional fossils help explain, how current creatures work. I thought the best way to sort of cover the basics of aerodynamics was to talk about things that barely fly. So I'm starting with bricks and working up from there. And I've got a flight simulator and I'm just going to be doing a little bit of a talk and some demonstrations. Very topical given that fantastic wingsuit flight that happened a few days back. Yeah, it's looking at things that only just fly and then explaining why they work and why they're different to a brick.
Oh, look, but it's just lift plus thrust, isn't it? I mean, look at the bloody Phantom jet. Like, that doesn't look like it's a jet, it's the right shape, but it's heavy and it's weird. It was the huge engines that pushed that thing along.
Yeah, it's just the engines. And so to keep things nice and simple today, everything's a glider in my talk.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Okay, right. So you won't be having any stealth fighters or things like that?
No. There should be a few sort of surprises, but we're just basically starting with the humble house brick and working out what it would actually take to make one fly in various ways.
Well, an example of what can go wrong is when on Top Gear they tried to launch the Robin Reliant, the triangular-shaped car, into space, and they tried to glide it down with brick-like results.
That was one of the best bits of television I've ever seen. But
who knows what would have happened if it had separated?
Well, if the tank had actually come off, I would actually pay money to. I would pay money to actually see that be done again. I'd love to see that separate. It would have been brilliant.
But it made a huge boom when it hit the ground, didn't it?
The best thing was the look on their faces, basically, as they watched it. I just think they could not believe that they'd actually done something that crazy.
And actually, what is the crazy thing that you would like to do if you had a bit of funding? What do aeronautics fans dream about at night when they go, if I could do this and do that? I go,
we want to launch a satellite. That's my plan.
Okay.
Yeah, SpaceX prices are getting very cheap. I think very soon small companies will actually be able to actually put satellites up. It's not going to be big company stuff for too much longer.
Okay.
I don't know what it would do yet, but we're working on that.
You need to have a catchy name for your company, like Aerodyne or something like that. Have a name that sounds important, but no one knows what it means.
Well, our company's already called Rocket Boots, and that's actually an IT company, but it's about the right
You're not going to get any credit with a name like that.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Maybe if you ran the two names together, Rocket Boots, like one word, that would get credit.
Sorry, this is a bit of a plug, but our company is Rocket Boots with one word.
Oh, really?
It is.
Okay, and what do you do? You design apps, don't you?
Yeah, we build apps, and we've done some robots and some embedded systems as well. Just doing some computer vision stuff at the moment. Sorry, this is all going a bit spooky, but I don't get the opportunity very often. Really,
precious
to do this
media
sort of
time.
Yeah.
And so, what is your degree in?
Computer science and maths.
Where'd you get it at?
At Sydney.
So that means you were there for at least 2-3 years.
Maybe longer.
see, like I just said in my talk, I left at the end of year 11, so I've got no idea what's going on in the academic world.
Yeah. Look, no, it's all, university is, it's more school. It's sort of more of the same. I mean, there's a lot of you cannot underestimate how important real life experience, particularly retail experience.
Does that mean the wedgies are more severe at uni?
The wedgies are internal intellectual wedgies, yes.
Self-effacing wedgies.
Well, yeah, self-effacing wedgies, yes. It requires wearing underpants on your head, I suppose, to efface a wedgie. No, but anyway.
And one last moment. Last time we had a discussion about what do you reckon is the hot new plane on the planet? What's the one that you would like to get a look at that we know of?
I think the new diesel. The diesel engines are finally coming to light aircraft, and I would love to look at.
But that means they're going to be a lot noisier, and you have to warm them up a longer.
No, actually, the diesel works brilliantly for planes, and it also means that they can run on much lighter fuels. They have much better range, more efficient, all sorts of nice things. It's just been very hard to make the engines light enough to work well.
Are they going to sound like a tractor?
No, actually, some of the ones that they've got are really quiet, and so really nicely done. There's a German plane. There's a new Diamond twin that's just come out, and there's a new one at Bankstown that someone owns, and I think University of New South Wales have some of them, but they twin diesel engines, lovely fast plane, very quiet, all electric, cockpit. So that's what I'd like to. A Diamond, a DA40, I think they are, twin star. Well, that's what I'd like to see.
And if we want to follow you, where are you on Twitter and your website?
I'm just very boring on Twitter. Robin Hilliard, ROBIN, Hilliard, HILLIARD. And rocketboots.com is our website, since you asked.
Well, we spoke to you earlier, but you've just given you a talk about how to make a brick fly, which I thought was pretty fascinating. You modelled your brick using X-Plane, and you successfully landed it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that I'd be able to do it, it's actually very hard. It's the same thing that Gary Connell had to put up with when he was landing his wingsuit. There's only... You have to save your energy for exactly the right moment to stay in the air long enough to actually land.
And basically, it's just combining science and entertainment and a bit of aerodynamic theory.
Yeah, and play. I'd like to think... I mean, I think that's the way that a lot of people sort of come to science and stuff, or a way to enjoy science is playing with it. And when I was looking at it, I was thinking of the old adage, given enough power, a brick can fly. Do you think that's true? Oh, completely. I mean...
So you can knock off the aerodynamic wings and add more power and it could do anything?
Well, essentially you've got a helicopter there. So, I'm sure that a brick has flown in a helicopter at some point in the past. So, yeah.
What do you think is the most brick-like plane in the world today?
I don't know. I used to think it was the Starfighter, but probably the Stealth Fighter is probably one of the ones that's very, very brick-like. I mean, all angles and things like that.
And the computers are doing the work all the time, and as soon as you get a reboot, you're going to the ground.
Well, they do have a lot of computers, but they have to use computers because they make them deliberately unstable. I didn't have enough time in the talk to talk about how important balance was, but that's actually what I spent the majority of my time preparing for the talk doing, was actually getting all the balance right so that the planes would... you'd have enough authority to be able to pull the nose up, but also that you wouldn't just fall backwards out of the sky the moment you let go of the plane. So
for people playing along at home that want to design their own unusual object to fly in X-Plane that we use, what's the next challenge? I mean, a brick's your obvious one there. Maybe some sort of animal or something.
I was doing the other big project I did in X-Plane.
I mean, how about a Pegasus, a flying horse?
That would be hard, but I think you'd spend most of your time doing the 3D modelling rather than the flying part. And but the thing I did have a lot of fun doing with a few years ago was the Red Bull flu tag challenge, and I actually did a lot of work modelling something we could build for our team, and they didn't accept it. So I've had a grudge against Red Bull ever since.
It's because they don't have any eggheads on the stuff, obviously.
No, my theory of what I tell myself is that it would have flown too well and would have posed an insurance risk to the crowd when it looped around a few times and then managed to land in the middle of them.
Well, look, you talked about airplane accidents last year. You've talked about a flying brick this year. What are you going to do next year? Are you a two-trick pony?
Yeah, I think I should probably do something a bit more about skeptical activism. I was involved with Stop the AVN over the last year, but I didn't think there was much I could present on in what we did, because I think everybody knows what we've done. But yeah, I think I'll keep looking at it. But I do like the whole wonder of science and sharing something that's great with other people.
Hi, this is Brian Dunning from the Skeptoid podcast. I am about to make your brain fail. July 12th through the 15th at the Amazing Meeting in Las Vegas. I'm giving my newest live show, Your Brain Sucks. I'm going to prove to you that your personal experiences are broken and are a terrible way to learn what's real and what's not. Moreover, I'm going to give you the tools to take back and show your friends the same thing. Their personal experiences, whether it's the perception of a ghost or the sampling of an alternative medicine, are absolutely unreliable. I guarantee that every brain in the room will be made to fail. But Your Brain Sucks is just one small part of the Amazing Meeting. If you've never been to one before, all I can tell you is that once you do, you won't be able to imagine not going back year after year. Of course, you'll get to personally meet the amazing Randy. He insists on meeting every attendee. Magicians Penn and Teller will be there, as always. Among the other presenters are some of the world's top experimental psychologists who will twist your brains even worse than I will. And of course, more of your favorite comedians and magicians will make sure that you never get to come up for air. You will leave the Amazing Meeting not only amazed, but recharged and ready to help spread rationality and scientific skepticism. Come to amazingmeeting.com and register today. It's at the beautiful new South Point Resort in Las Vegas, where everything is ridiculously inexpensive. Also, we plan to stun the casino with how low their take will be. I'll be at my table the whole weekend, and I also want to meet and shake hands with every one of you. AmazingMeeting.com. It sells out every year, so please register today. AmazingMeeting.com. I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Joining me now, all the way from sunny Melbourne in Victoria, it's the president of the Victorian Skeptics, Terry Kelly. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Richard.
Now, Terry, you must be absolutely beside yourself with excitement, as I know many people in Melbourne are in Victoria, because you're holding this year's annual Australian Skeptics Convention.
Yeah, it's 6 years since the last time Melbourne hosted the national convention. It was at the Age Theatre of the University of Melbourne, 2006. We thought it was a great conference, and it was a fairly serious kind of conference. A lot of scientists, a fair bit of talk about climate change. Keynote speaker was Dr. John Long from the Museum Victoria. This is going to be quite different, and just the way the conference is organised and the way things are done has changed a lot in 6 years.
Yes, and I can certainly tell you stories about what it's like to hold a major convention.
That's right. Yes, I wanted to tell you.
That's right. As of course, it was only just a very short few years ago that we had TAM here in Sydney.
Yeah.
But the exciting thing, of course, although it's not officially a TAM that you're holding in Melbourne, it's the next best thing, because the keynote and the major attraction is none other than James Randi.
James Randi himself, yes. Look, it's interesting that the whole concept of that. I was at the TAM in Sydney in 2010, and it was fabulous. And we toyed with the idea of doing that. At one stage I certainly had the idea that we might have a more of a sort of a grassroots conference and have people that weren't very well known, and have focus on people, particularly around Victoria, who were doing skeptical things and were being involved in a lot of skeptical activism. And when we started planning the conference, we just thought, well, let's have a bit of a wish list of who might be the most prominent sort of guest speakers you could get around the world. So we drew up a bit of a wish list, and who would be number one? Oh, okay, James Randi would be number one. So we thought, all right, we'll send an email to James Randi and see what happens. And to our shock, horror and surprise, he said yes, or his DJ Growthy said yes. So then it became a slightly different concept. So it is going to be perhaps somewhere in between your normal sort of grassroots Australian conference and a TAM. So certainly in emphasis it'll be like that, and even possibly in numbers. I know that the TAM in Sydney had something like 600 or 700 people.
Something that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think when we had the conference in Melbourne last time, it was somewhere around the 200, 250 mark, which for a national conference was fairly big. So we've booked a 400-seat theatre, which is going to make it much smaller than the TAM, but much bigger than anything we've done before.
Wow. Sort of aiming for the best of both worlds here with some bigger names and some more grassroots activity.
Yeah.
And I guess the message is at the moment, because we can talk about some of the other names that are coming along, the message is at the moment, get ready out there to get your tickets.
Yes, look, the tickets for the general public go on sale this Saturday. We did have an early bird ticket launch release last Saturday for people who are actually subscribers to the magazine. And there were early bird tickets where people got some rewards, like, for example, they got a T-shirt. So this Saturday they go on sale for the general public.
All right, there's the word, folks. And, of course, as you're listening to the Skeptic Zone, those tickets should more or less be ready to go. And you can find out more about the convention and where to get tickets by visiting vicskeptics.wordpress.com, which is not only the site of the Victorian Skeptics, but has information about the convention. And, of course, looking on that website, I can see there are photographs of the Spot Theatre. Wow, they just look fantastic. I think you've chosen a good one.
Yeah. So we've made it a priority of picking nice venues.
Not only will James Randi be there, but DJ Grophy, the president of the James Randi Educational Foundation, will be there. We've got Brian Thompson, who's the outreach coordinator from the James Randi Educational Foundation. Rebecca Watson, the famous Rebecca Watson from The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. We've got Lawrence Leung, as seen on national television, of course, with his unbelievable program. Dr. Rachel Dunlop will be speaking. Lynn Kelly, wonderful Lynn Kelly. Dr. Chrissy Wilson, Choice Magazine's Consumer of the Year, Dr. Ken Harvey, and many more. What a lineup.
Yeah, actually, I've just noticed that one of my favourites for the convention we haven't actually got listed there, which is Adam van Langenberg.
Yes.
Who sort of, to some extent, epitomises what we're on about in terms of promoting skeptical activism at the grassroots level, because he's the school teacher who set up the Skeptics Club or Skeptics Society at McKinnon Secondary College, and within a very short time ended up on national television on The Circle. I believe you've had a fair bit to do with him yourself, Richard.
Well, he very kindly refers to me as the man who sort of inspired him a little bit to get that going. And I was very lucky enough, some months ago now, even as long ago as last year, I've sort of lost track of time, I visited his school and performed or spoke for his group. So that's very exciting. He's a guy, an average guy, just a teacher, who decided to try it out for himself and started a Skeptics Club. And we're very proud of the work he's been doing. And, of course, somebody I neglected to mention on the list is some guy called Richard Saunders, who might be coming along to Bender Street.
That's right. Yes, you didn't mention Richard Saunders. Yes, we have some of the usual stars, like Richard Saunders and Dr. Rachie and Chrissy Wilson, and, of course, Ken Harvey, the Choice Magazine Consumer of the Year Award winner, and the Fred Thornett Award winner from last year.
Right.
But, so we've also got some of the lesser-known people, apart from Adam, who I think, Van Langenberg, who I think is really is, like I said, what we're on about. We've also got someone from Friends of Science in Medicine.
Oh, a very worthwhile group.
Cam Martin, who was recommended. I think Loretta Marin, who was actually one of our star performers in the Skeptics movement. She's also a member of Friends of Science in Medicine. She recommended him. So we've got them because, look, to me, what active skepticism is, and I'm quoting directly from Rebecca Watson, is where science education and consumer rights overlap.
Right. That's not bad.
And that's pretty much what some of those people are about, and particularly the people, the Friends of Science in Medicine, coming from their position of scientific knowledge, but also looking at the rights of consumers to get a good product and get what they paid for. And they've been quite active in addressing some of the issues of what's taught at universities, for example, and what sort of courses are actually accepted in academic circles. So, they're another one. So there's two there that aren't mentioned on the website currently, is Adam van Langenberg and the Friends of Science in Medicine.
Well, I'm sure they'll make their way onto the website.
Yeah.
Now, one of the highlights, of course, every year of the convention, be it big or small, is the annual convention dinner, and I hope you've got something lined up for that.
Yes, we're still being a little bit flexible. We're a fair way out actually from the convention, and we're leaving our options open with a couple of things. Interestingly, when we approached Lawrence Leung, we thought of him as possibly being a performer at the dinner. He preferred to be a presenter during the body of the conference. I think one of our star performers at the dinner is going to be Brian Thompson, who is the outreach coordinator of the JRF. Two of the other events, apart from the dinner, there's the meet and greet on the Friday night from 5:30 to 7:30, which will be at the magnificent Melbourne Immigration Museum. And the convention dinner is at the Arts Centre in Melbourne. So once again, that looks like a pretty nice venue. So with the three venues that we've got are pretty good. When we approached Randy, he said that they said he would come, but DJ and Brian volunteered themselves.
That's fact. Well, I'm not surprised. I know that James Randi loves Australia dearly, and any opportunity he can to come here, he does after all these years. And he's made many trips to this country. But it would be such a pleasure to see other members of the James Randi Educational Foundation here as well, and especially to come to Melbourne at that time of the year, the end of November, Friday the 30th of November it starts to Sunday the 2nd of December. That's a really nice time to be in Melbourne.
Oh, look, I was going to make that point myself. It's a great time of the year to be in Melbourne because, as we know, Melbourne's famous for its variable and interesting weather, and that is probably one of the better times because Melbourne can get ugly hot in January and February, people don't realise. Being at the bottom of the continent, we get all those winds come off the desert, so January, February can be pretty hard, but November, December should be pretty good. October's the wettest month of the year, and that's over. People don't realise that too. It's spring in Melbourne, and spring in Melbourne can be pretty wet, but by then it should be really nice. Lots of things to do. There's a very big cafe society in Melbourne, particularly around Lygon Street, which is only a couple of 100 metres from the convention theatre. So, yeah, I think it's a good time to be coming to Melbourne.
Oh, I think any time is a good time to visit Melbourne if you're from out of town. It's a wonderful city. It's full of art and culture and wonderful cafes. But we're all very much looking forward to visiting Melbourne for the Australian Skeptics Annual Convention. I can't wait to see who wins the bent spoon this year. That's always a highlight for me.
Yeah, getting back to the dinner, as you mentioned, apart from the people who are going to be performing or speaking, there is the award for the bent spoon. There possibly be the Skeptic of the Year and the presentation of the Fred Thornett Award again. So that'll take up a bit of time. The other thing with the dinner is that it's just a good chance for people to get together and have a bit of fun and meet people. So we're trying to reach a balance between entertaining people, because if they're paying for the dinner, they need to get some content and get something out of it, with the opportunity still for people to socialise. So if it's too crammed with speakers and people can't get a chance to talk to the people on the table, it sort of defeats the purpose. So it's going to be an action-packed night, but it's also, we're going to encourage people to meet other people from all around Australia and perhaps around the world.
I think that's a wonderful idea, and it's certainly one of the things I always look forward to when I'm going to meetings, be it the TAM in Las Vegas or conventions anywhere around the world. It's so nice just to meet people, have a drink and have a chat with them, and this sounds like a golden opportunity. Now, folks, you've had the word. It's on at the end of November, Friday the 30th of November to Sunday the 2nd of December. And since there are only a limited number of tickets. You can bet those tickets are going to be selling very fast. I wouldn't miss out. I certainly would never miss out on an opportunity to see James Randi. That should be fantastic. And the website, once again, to grab those tickets while you still can, it's vicskeptics.wordpress.com. Terry Kelly, President of the Victorian Skeptics, I wish you all the best of luck in the coming months.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for agreeing to be one of the presenters at the conference. Also, like you said, quite a number of tickets have gone already. I guess we had 100 early bird specials, and they went within a day or two. So they're steadily going up. There are still plenty available, but so far the only tickets have been available to members of the Victorian Skeptics and particularly subscribers to the magazine. So there will be plenty left, but so 6 months out, we think we're making fairly good progress. So if you're thinking of leaving it till the last minute to buy your tickets, it might be too late.
That's right, folks. Don't leave it to the last minute to buy your tickets. Terry, I can't wait for the convention, and I look forward to seeing you at the end of November.
Thanks very much, Richard. Good talking to you.
I'm Eugenie Scott, Executive Director of the National Center for Science Education in Oakland, California. We defend and support the teaching of evolution and climate change when it comes under attack for religious and political reasons. We help teachers, parents, school boards, and other citizens defend good science in the schools. Come visit us at ncsc.com and on YouTube and Facebook, and let us know if science comes under attack in your community. We're here to help.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Well, it's all systems go now for the amazing meeting. Before the amazing meeting, I'm going to be spending about a week in the Bay Area, which will be really fabulous, catching up with Eugenie Scott. I think I'm even giving a talk, and more details about that soon. For those in the Bay Area who may not be going to TAM, you can come by and see me talk on the 11th. I think it is the 11th of July in the Bay Area. More details about that coming up in the next few weeks of the Skeptic Zone. As always, I thank those people who chip into the Skeptic Zone, only 99 cents a week. There are options on the skepticzone.tv website to chip in a bit more if you so wish, or if you just enjoy the show, then I'm delighted. Please keep enjoying the show. You don't have to subscribe, but if you do, I am grateful. But before I go, let's do a little prediction test. I think I did this a few months ago on the Skeptic Zone. I'm going to roll my 20-sided die here in about 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Everybody think of a number between 1 and 20. Come on. Enough time? You got the number in your head? Here it comes. 2. There's the number, folks. Who got it right? Until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. 2 again.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.